Welcome to the Fitness and Finance Podcast with Jeff Smith from The Retirement Smith and Jennifer Scherer from Fredericksburg Fitness Studio. True wealth isn't just about finances. It's about maintaining a healthy body and a secure financial future. The Fitness and Finance Podcast is here to help you build strength in both areas, tackling financial strategies for retirement while also discussing ways to stay active, healthy, and energized. Now let's get started with Fitness and Finance. All right, here we are.
Yes.
Another episode of Fitness and Finance Radio.
Mhm.
I'm your co-host, Tony Shore. I am here with two of my favorite people in the world, Jeffrey Smith and Jennifer Scherer. And Jeff and Jen, I can't keep up with you. You guys are kind of getting too famous for me. I'm just trying to keep up. I mean, how many television appearances, and I mean key TV appearances, and Forbes magazine is quoting Jeff on finance.
Look out, folks.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, unbelievable.
Well, you get these requests. I get these requests to respond to certain things, through, different magazines and
Sure.
you never know if they're going to use your stuff or not.
Right.
And so it was a really cool surprise on Friday when that article came out. And, I had written, part of that months ago. And so it was really cool to see that.
That's neat. Yeah. And I heard you even heard from your old English teacher saying, great quote, or well said.
Well
Jeff.
said. I was like, yes. My high school English teacher thought I sounded coherent.
That's great.
That's the best.
He's like,
he was probably shocked.
yeah, he was. He was
No,
like,
I'm
there was no
kidding.
run-ons.
Yeah, he's like,
Where are
wow,
all the run-ons. Sorry.
run-on
I
sentences.
couldn't
Yeah,
say
yeah, that's
that. Yeah, I just
great.
ruined it, JP. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, yeah, I love that these magazines are quoting you and using things you say. And you guys were on the local Fox affiliate.
Jennifer, was on for the FIFA World Cup
Wow.
thing. And during that segment,
that
the
was
lead
fun.
up.
How to fuel like an athlete. Yeah, so that was a fun segment. I actually used the setup that you and Justin built for us, but instead of having this, I had a screen about how to fuel like an athlete. So I had created like an image on the screen, and I used that as my background. So that was actually worked out really well.
It was really cool. And I got to be on the lead up to the what game was that? I think it was Saturday.
It was Saturday's game, yeah.
It was England versus Norway.
Okay.
So what were they talking to you about?
They were talking to me about, professional athletes and how to invest like one, but also how can we, best, utilize our money and time. So it was a really cool segment too. And we got to be around people that are involved with the World Cup, which was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
That is neat.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. You guys keep so busy. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great. So that's what we're really going to talk about today on the show, right? How to fuel like an athlete.
Yeah.
And that's fuel and how to invest like an athlete. I can't wait to hear this and to figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm sure our listeners and viewers are excited about it. But you also this past weekend got to spend a little time on your own without working. You guys are always working, but you got to hang at the farm, right?
Yes. It was so nice.
Yeah, Jennifer's mom's birthday month is July, so she celebrates it a few times, and so they spent the weekend at our new place, and we got to do some four-wheeling around the farm to see all the cows, and we got to, what else did we do? We did a ton of stuff.
Well, we hung out in the garden. We have a garden that the former owners planted for us, so it's in full bloom right now. It's really neat.
Tony, I used my tractor to get something called steer manure.
Oh yeah.
To help with grow our potatoes.
Yeah, we actually did some shoveling of steer manure.
Yeah.
Jeff, if I was in the Fitness and Finance radio studios right now, I would give you a big pat on the back for that. You got to get on that tractor. And
my tractor was like, what are you putting me in?
Yeah. Use some
so dainty. It's never really gotten too dirty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was around I used it more for rides.
Yeah.
And now I'm like,
now you're actually using your tractor.
Yeah, I put it to work.
I love that. It's not just a princess tractor.
Yeah,
Now it's actually going to work.
Tractor, and now it's like, why are you working?
Yeah, now there's actual work to be done. I love the fact, I just picturing you out there on a tractor. I want pictures of him on the tractor.
We have them.
I want
we did get some today.
Yeah,
we got some this
I
week.
could have posted it up for our viewers while we talked about it. Jennifer, that's your responsibility to get me pictures of Jeff. The funnier and the more embarrassing, the better. But just him on a tractor is worth the price of admission, I think.
Yeah, it's hard,
especially in hauling manure. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was the deal.
It was good.
Here's a great financial mind quoted in Forbes: out there on a farm, on a tractor, hauling manure. I love it. It shows a good work ethic, and you're a real person, Jeff. I love that.
Yeah, as I get more mature in my business, I find that I really want to do sort of hands-on work too. I don't get that opportunity a lot. So, spending the weekend doing that kind of thing is fulfilling. So
yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not a hands-on manual labor guy. I grew up on a farm doing it, and I just got sick of it, and I'm like, I'm done with that. But building that screened-in porch that I built, that was like working with my hands. That was neat. That was a very fulfilling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. And it came out great. I mean,
it turned out really nice. I mean, we're really happy with it. Well, hey, let's jump in. Who wants to start? What are we going to learn first? How to invest like an athlete? I mean, we'll talk about both, but which one of you wants to begin this discussion?
I'll start. Well, I feel like, when you say fuel like an athlete, I feel like the biggest takeaway, well, I guess it's three things that I really want people to take away. Prioritizing protein is huge.
Yep.
I think we all know that. It's called protein maxing right now, and everybody's talking about, eating more and more protein. But how much protein do we really need? I usually coach like 25 to 30 grams per meal, right? So,
well, that's it.
Well, yeah. And so if a typical protein shake is going to provide that, but I really would like people to think about food first and supplements.
So why don't you talk to them why 25 to 30 versus 80?
Yeah, or why?
Yeah,
and also
say, if a little is good, how about a lot?
Right,
right, and address. I want you to address, because I'm sure a lot of listeners and viewers might think, why do you also, you can't just rely on supplements like you said, or powders, or a protein shake. You've also got to have actual protein from foods is probably better, right? First of all, when you said fuel like an athlete, I just thought you meant drink Gatorade. I assume we're just drinking Gatorade. I drink Gatorade, so I feel like an athlete. Done.
Yeah, right.
Step away.
Well, and that's the second thing. Well, let me finish about protein.
Sure.
So 25 to 30 grams is based on research. That's like the prime amount of protein that our body can really put to work. Beyond that, how much of that is really going to be utilized, right? So it might be like a waste beyond the 25 to 35 grams. So, bioavailability is a term that we use, and that means like the body's ability to use the nutrients that you're feeding it. Right. So if you give it a 80-gram thing of protein, how much of that is really bioavailable? Probably not all 80 grams. Right.
No.
So some of it's just excessive,
especially if it comes from a protein shake or powder. Those aren't as bioavailable as lean beef, for example.
Animal proteins.
Yep.
So think about Greek yogurt, cottage cheese is another good one, eggs, chicken, turkey, fish. Lean beef is also a great option. It's not that and people are like, oh, I don't eat red meat, so I'm eating well. Like, well, red meat's not bad for you. It's got great vitamins, minerals, and iron. But it's just a matter of not eating it every day, right? So if you're going to eat lean beef, maybe you limit that to twice a week. But honestly, one of the biggest mistakes I see in practice is people eat no protein at breakfast, and then they try to make up for it at dinner. They're eating all their protein in one meal. So athletes spread protein throughout the day. They're not going to wait until dinner to get their protein. And then the next thing, as an athlete, don't fear carbohydrates. That's a huge one. Athletes understand that carbs are fuel. Like, they are not the enemy. Your muscles store carbohydrates as glycogen. And basically that's your body's preferred energy source when you start exercising is glycogen. So good carb options like fruit, oatmeal, potatoes, rice, beans and rice, that makes a complete protein right there. Any whole grain really, and get creative. You don't have to stick with brown rice. That can get boring. Try spelt with barley, freekeh. There's other grains out there. Amaranth.
Felt and freekeh.
Yeah, get your freekeh
I made homemade
on,
spelt bread on Saturday. It was delicious.
I'm feeling svelte. Oh, different word, I think. Different.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I think the third thing that we talked about is like recovery. The time where, after exercise, your body is primed to recover. The muscle fibers are shredded. And it's basically they're starving for those building blocks from proteins, the amino acids.
Yeah. And I think that the reason that people think the carbohydrates are bad is because they're underutilizing their body's movement, right? So if you're not exercising on a regular basis, it can be stored if you're eating an abundance of carbohydrates or the wrong ones too. Right.
And then, absolutely. And that's honestly half of my job is people have demonized carbohydrates. And it's like, well, if you're eating same as protein, if you're eating, 60 to 80 grams of carbs in one sitting, what do you think that's going to do to your blood sugar? It's going to skyrocket and then it's going to come plummeting down, right? You want to try to keep that blood sugar as stable as possible. And that means that you are watching your carb intake as well as your protein intake. You're not just overdoing on both. Pizza, for example, is going to be way too many carbs in one sitting. But if you have a salad and you have vegetables with it and, you have other things, you can still eat the pizza, just not as much volume.
Sure.
Yeah. So just think about carbs aren't the enemy. It's how much carbohydrates you're eating and the quality of those carbs.
So, I hear the term carb loading. Like, when I was in wrestling or football players, you hear carb loading and it sounds like you're not recommending just bulking up on carbs all at once.
No.
Like all of these things like protein and carbs, it's better to spread it out.
It is. And consistency is king here. So, the day before an event, carb loading is not going to make up for the weeks and months that you've, had a healthy diet and done everything as you should.
Or if you starve yourself of carbs to watch your weight and then carb load before a marathon.
And also it
probably not a good idea.
Like
I know they have a big a big pasta dinner the night before the Grandma's Marathon up in Duluth, Minnesota, which is one of the biggest. It's a huge marathon, right? And so people are like, we got a carb load the night before. And I'm like, I think I'd get sick if I carb loaded the night before.
And it's too much. Like, I feel like, again, you're dumping all this carbohydrate into your bloodstream. And so your body is not going to utilize that, as efficiently as if you had a balanced meal with some carbs and protein and fruits and vegetables. And then you're fueling during an event like that. You don't need to rely on everything right before the event. Right. That's going to weigh you down.
Well, especially if you're training a certain way and then you introduce something completely different, like carb loading at the end, that is just a bad idea.
But the key is carbs aren't the enemy. The key on that is you need carbohydrates before an event. You don't have to overdo it though.
But you do need them. Yeah,
you
that's the key.
Need them.
So what does that look like, babe? What does that look like?
So in terms of portions?
Yeah. So if somebody says, well, I mean, I hear you, but what does that mean?
So if you're looking at a plate, like a 9-inch dinner plate, half of it should be vegetables. A quarter of it should be protein. And the other quarter of it should be whole grain. Right. So if you're building a healthy plate before your big event, that's how it should look. So that could be, your whole grain could be a piece of toast. Your protein could be chicken, could be fish, could be pork, whatever protein you want. And then the half vegetables, think about roasted vegetables as an easy way to get that. If you roast vegetables, you can do a mixture. You could do broccoli, cauliflower, sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts. I mean, whatever you like. But roast, get a variety in there. And it doesn't all have to be non-starchy. Like you can throw potatoes and
carrots.
You can do squash and things like that. Those are great forms of carbohydrates, especially before a big event.
That's awesome. But I think that sounds really good. So,
I like that advice, and that's good fuel. And I know athletes who train well and know what they're doing, know how to balance it out and know how to get enough protein and enough carbs. I do know that athletes do not avoid carbs typically.
No.
I mean,
No.
but people are like, oh man, I got to keep my carbs down. Got to keep my carbs down.
And see, that's the thing. When you hear people say that, the carbs that you need to keep down are the simple ones, the plain white carbohydrates that have no nutritional value. White bread, white rice, baked goods, cookies, candies, cakes. Those carbohydrates are not something that the athlete's going to rely on for energy.
Krispy Kreme donuts, not.
Yeah, it's not. It's going to leave
good
feeling like heavy and lethargic.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you had carbohydrates in the form of, brown rice, whole wheat bread, beans, you're going to have a good amount of energy from eating those carbohydrates, and then it's not going to come crashing down afterward.
Sure. And on the protein side, I think you mentioned eggs. Eggs are a good source of protein, right?
They are very much so. And that's another.
I love eggs.
Are like, how many eggs can I have? Aren't they bad? Well, no, they're not bad in moderation. I try to say no more than probably 14 whole eggs a week. So I typically, considering an egg has only 6 to 7 grams of protein, if you want to have a 30-gram protein breakfast and you want to have 2 eggs, that's only 12 grams. So you're going to need to bulk that up with some egg whites.
Yeah.
Or other forms of protein.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So that's really good. So so what you're talking about to fuel like an athlete is balance it out, make sure you're being consistent, but really make sure you are getting enough carbs and protein. That's a big part of it, and vegetables on that side, of course. And some of it sounds like common sense, but some of it people do confuse. They either think, oh, I got to drink a protein shake and have a steak. You don't necessarily have to do that.
You don't know. You the key on that is balancing it out and trying not to put all of your energy into one bucket.
Make sure you're getting some natural proteins rather than just from powders and things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Way better because of the bioavailability piece. That's the thing, right? You can be drinking, calories that never really do any good.
Empty calories, they call them, right?
But honestly, the deeper conversation with fueling like an athlete is mindset. Because if you really, I think one of the biggest mindset shifts between the average person and an athlete is how they view food. Right. So many people make their food decisions based on emotion or what they feel like eating, or is this convenient, or, oh, this is a reward, right? Right. And then they kind of ask, what do I feel like eating? And there's nothing, I would think there's nothing inherently wrong with enjoying food, but when every decision is driven by cravings or boredom or celebration, it's easy to lose sight of like what your body actually needs. And athletes tend to approach that completely different. Instead of asking like, what do I feel like eating? They're asking, what does my body need to perform at its optimal?
It's like top fuel cars, right? The faster they go, the cleaner the fuel has to be. And if you just have a regular car, 87 does it, but if you're an athlete and you need fuel,
and maybe they do want a donut, but they're like, well, I've got a long event tomorrow, how's that going to make me feel? They're forward thinking, or maybe they don't feel like eating breakfast, but they know that they have a practice later that day, and they're like, oh yeah.
Well, I mean, you can take that same mindset and say, how does this food actually make me feel after I eat it? If people spent the time focusing on the after effect of eating out, for example,
and
said, geez, I wonder if I could make a connection on whether or not that made me feel good.
I could go through the Taco Bell drive-through. How will that make me feel in an hour or two? Terrible. I could heat up a Hot Pocket in the microwave, but I'm like, I'm gonna feel that. Like Jim Gaffigan has a bit on Hot Pockets. You probably heard that, the comedian. It is. You want to talk about how you thinking ahead about how you'll feel after you eat something. It's like a Hot Pocket. My skin feels greasy now.
That's right.
It's like
that's so funny.
I need to lay down.
I think that's misconstrued too, and thinking of a mindset of an athlete. It's like, oh, well, they eat perfectly, because they're always in it, their mindset. But really, I think it means they make decisions based on the purpose instead of any impulse.
Right.
Yes.
And that's really the bottom line. Well, and I think that relates to what Jeff.
Yeah. Isn't that just like planning? I mean, that's just like planning in the financials. Right. I mean, you got to make good plans and say, I'm going to stick through this process.
Exactly.
I'll tell you, and that was a huge mind shift for me that you taught me in nutrition counseling over, so many years ago, was how to view it. And, and I was so afraid of carbohydrates that, I really had adverse effects from it. Now my blood work is clean and, and I eat a balance and I'm in probably the best shape of my life. And, so it is a mindset, and it is about wanting something better than that instant gratification.
Yeah. And it's the same in spending. I mean, people, I think in Jeff, he deals with this all the time. It's like, they are like, what do I feel like buying? Or what would make me happy right now?
Right.
From a money standpoint. And successful investors tend to ask a way different question.
Yes.
Yeah, just like successful athletes. That's a good point, Jennifer. And Jeff, so let's talk about that. Invest like a pro or invest like an athlete. I think we probably touched on the key here already is, don't do say, hey, this will make me feel good now. Like, you're eating Taco Bell, you might think this is great. You're, some pleasure center in your brain is being fulfilled as you eat it. But you're not thinking ahead for an hour and a half later. And it's even more important, obviously, with finances. You got to look down the road. You've got to invest for the future.
Yeah. And you have to have a reason. And you have to say, geez, this is more important to me than this instant gratification. And it's a tough mindset change.
Because there's regret. If you spend something that makes you feel good now, there's usually regret later.
Always, especially when you're setting it up on the table for the garage sale, that you're selling it for pennies on the dollar, that you really didn't even use it.
Yes.
I mean, that I always call those avoid purchasing future garage sale items.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, a year from now, I finally got that message. I used to be an impulse buyer and really I get excited about things,
Yeah.
And so I've had to work at that because that's not good. And I'm like, I always like going through the store. Oh, this would be great. And then a year from now, we don't ever touch it, and it's not something we ever use. And we have boxes of that stuff. It's like, that's terrible, right?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, I think the message that I want to get across today about athletes in general, there you can see it, right? You see the difference in athletes are so, they take center stage on, in our lives. We're watching them all the time, right? So you see guys, the average stay in a professional league is about 2 years, right? So if you're making $1 million, a year, or $20 million a year, how you handle that is important because that life cycle of an athlete can be very, very small. Only the elite people make it much longer than that, or they avoid injury. Those types of things. And that mindset is so important when you recognize that you have a limited amount of time to earn money. You're going to do the most with that on the outside of your earning potential. Jennifer and I were talking about this in show prep, on the way, back from the farm. And, we were just talking about the fact that, all of us can leverage some skill or value for money, right? That's what we do. Tony, you made a whole career doing just this and being on the air. You have a set of skills that not everybody can have. A lot of people don't have. You're in the top 1% of what it is that you do. And and you've leveraged that into a career. And so what I want people to understand is that is a limited time deal, right? So you're leveraging what it is that you're good at for money, and that money has to last you into retirement. So if you start looking at things like, geez, I'm going to take a portion of my skill set's value and set it aside, and I pretend that is an employee of mine, whether you get a W-2 or not. And you say, geez, this is an employee that doesn't start working until I'm 65. And you want to feed that employee and make it fat. so that it works its tail off from 65 to 100.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. I really like that one. That's good.
Really good.
Well, I think people just need to have that mindset. I look at, some of the, Larry Fitzgerald, for example, super responsible. Not only was he responsible with money, he was responsible with his brand. He's just a guy that people can emulate, that people can look up to. He was great in the community, and he took care of his finances. And he's going to live for the rest of his life on the money that he earned in the NFL. I just think that's really cool. And you have an opportunity. We all have an opportunity to model excellent behavior for other people, in responsibility with our body and our wealth, whatever that looks like. And I think it's important. And I think it's important to give back to the community too. I think that is also, we should be aspiring so that we can help other people.
Yeah.
That's just my point of view, but
I think that's great. And that's an aspect that a lot of people don't think about, but the athletes that are successful outside of, off the field, as they say, are ones that do look ahead and do make the right decisions and do balance things out. The problem is, if you're young, and a lot of NBA or NFL stars, they get all this money and then they start to spend it, or they don't work with somebody like yourself to invest it properly. And, maybe they do the right thing on the health side, working with Jennifer, but maybe they're not doing the right thing on the financial side. And they get hurt through no fault of their own. Like you said, you get an injury, but that doesn't mean you're not an elite athlete. That can happen to anybody. Somebody could fly in and, your knee is out and you're done. So you could have a 2-year career, and if you blew all your millions on a mansion and a sports car and your friends and whatever.
And that's the other thing. It's who you surround yourself with that matters, right? That influence. I always look at Derrick Henry is a wonderful example of taking care, using some of the wealth that he's,
he's a running back, right?
Running back who is,
was for the Titans.
He was for the Titans for a long time, and now he's in Baltimore. But the thing with Derrick Henry is that it is estimated, I think I read it was around 200. I should look that up before I say it, but $250,000 a year is devoted to his health. So he's like hyperbaric chamber, he's getting a massage every day. His fitness and his intake, his food intake, is structured beyond belief. And he's, been in the league a long time for a running back, and he's very high level, right? They call him King Henry. So, the fact is that, when you look at guys like that, they've taken and invested in themselves. And that's what really good, successful investors do. They invest in learning and educating themselves and making themselves better. You look at all the people that are very successful, they can live very modestly. They really do. They don't derive their joy from things. And I think there's some value there.
Yeah, for sure.
It definitely is. It's a long game. I think that's where athletes play the long game.
Yeah.
And
I agree. Well, hey, I think this has been a great discussion. We do need to wrap it up, but before we do, how can people get a hold of you guys? I know that you offer consultations, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers have questions. I know you love to hear from them. How can they do that?
So they can check out our website, and that's fitnessfinancepro.com. And then from there, they can book their free 30-minute discovery call with both Jeff and myself.
Nice. That's great. Yeah. And you both had a lot of great things to say on investing like a pro athlete, how to fuel like an athlete. And Jennifer, I thought you would just say drink Gatorade and eat green beans out of a can. Just eat green beans out of a can. I look at Jennifer, super fit, one of the healthiest people I know, and I saw her just tin can, spoon, not heated up, just green beans, nothing, just right out of in the juice there.
Just so easy.
Yeah. So there's that. It's simple and it's cost effective, which Jeff likes.
We have a case. We have a case of green beans in the pantry, and she just cracks one open whenever she feels.
That is fascinating. That's a good snack. Jeff's going for the chips, and she opens the can of green beans. I've seen the video. They go, "Hey, let's get a snack," and Jeff goes to the pantry and gets a bag of potato chips. Terrible for you, right?
Yeah.
And her idea of a fun snack while watching the movie, just a can of green beans, just opens it up, leaves the tin lid hanging off right there. Just doesn't even make it back to the couch with it.
Nope.
She's eating
it up right there.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, a great show today. I love this topic. It's no wonder, Jeff, you were quoted in Forbes. It's no wonder that they had you on for the FIFA pregame there on the local Fox affiliate. Jennifer, you guys are, and Jeff too. You guys are great. Listeners, once again, go to fitnessfinancepro.com and set up a consultation with Jennifer and Jeff. And that does it for today's episode of Fitness and Finance Radio.